Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a webinar on how ThinkConcepts strengthen cybersecurity with Adlumin MDR. Today, we have one of our local customers with us, Jason Short, who is a technical lead at ThinkConcepts in Auckland, New Zealand. So ThinkConcepts has been using Adlumin MDR for over a year now. So we thought it would be great to have Jason to have a live discussion with our head security nerd, Lewis Pope, to tell us how the solution has been working for their business. During this webinar, all attendees will be on mute. You can ask questions as we go, but we'll wait to the end to go through them. And please let us know if you have any audio or video issues so we can get them resolved. And this webinar will be recorded and shared with you soon. So that's all I need to show. I'll pass you over to Lewis and Jason, and I can get started with the conversation. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Hamish. So just for quick introductions, I'm Lewis Pope. I'm one of the head nerds at Enable. I'm staged up in the States, in the U.S., North Carolina. Very thick on the accent, but hopefully we'll be able to have some good conversations this afternoon, or this afternoon with Jason and myself. I am security and compliance focused. I've been in the MSP space myself, with an MSP for about 7 years before I went to the dark side and joined the MSP channel vendor side of things. I've been with Enable for the past 7. Very much practical implementation of security controls. How do we do all of these things that we're tasked with doing as MSPs, as IT professionals, whenever our clients and our stakeholders come to us and say, hey, keep me safe. So Jason, introduction for yourself.
Thanks, Lewis. I'm Jason. So I'm the technical lead at ThinkConcepts. I've been here for 15 years. We've been operating since 2003, so 23 years. We are a managed service provider. We have 3 locations, and our client base is mostly in professional services. My role is effectively designing our go-to-market solutions in terms of what products and services we provide to our customers. I also manage our internal security and how we communicate security proposition and risk to our customers. That also fits in my remit.
Okay. So for getting right into it, those customers that you are, supporting, you're taking care of, what verticals are they in? Are you focusing on verticals? Are you taking all callers? How have you got that broken up with your current client?
So they span quite a few. We're not vertical focused. There is, organically, there has been a stronger representation in some verticals. So primarily, the largest vertical would be probably accountancy firms, law firms, some financial services for the tech companies. But we don't really focus. We have manufacturing. We started off with a focus in pharmacies. That's where we started, and that was very much break fix business. And organically through referral, we've grown from there into a managed service provider. So, every pharmacy has an accountant, every pharmacy has a lawyer. So it's tended to grow that way. But no, we have focused.
Yeah. So since you haven't focused there, but you do definitely have a larger representation of regulated entities. And because of that, how is that, what is it that they bring to you? What are their security concerns or cybersecurity concerns or compliancy concerns that they're bringing to you?
Yeah, it's so regulation, maybe surprisingly, maybe not, isn't always front of mind when it comes to New Zealand businesses, especially cybersecurity. So, Reserve Bank and medical, I think they have pretty strong regulations, but otherwise the regulations imposed on, an accounting firm are almost non-existent. So when they come to us, they usually, their risks or what they're worried about is really what they don't know. They're hearing about all of this cybersecurity stuff, and they want us to just make them feel comfortable that sort of, without really necessarily always knowing what the tangible risks are. So we see our role as highlighting and being able to communicate those risks to them outside of regulatory frameworks, because sometimes they're not given a list of things they have to do. They just have to understand what's actually out there.
What they should be doing from I have actually sat down, and not a lot of do this, but I've sat down and I went through the risk calculation exercises, and I know that this is my risk exposure and this is where I want to spend my money and my time and effort reducing those risks. You're still getting that. You're there to tell them what their risks are and to inform them a lot still.
Yeah, I mean, most of our customers fit into the small business sector, so sub 100 seats. Some are larger, but the majority of our customers are in that space. So they don't really always have someone inside of the business that can understand and highlight those risks. So we very much are providing that service to them.
Okay, and you're no stranger to regulations though, and having to adhere to a framework. You're certified under SMB 1001.
That's right.
How is that? That is an internal process and a looking at yourself in the mirror and answering a lot of questions of, are we capable? Can we do this? Do we actually do this? Do we have the bandwidth to do this? How did that process of pursuing that change any of your approaches, whether it was operations or even what you were turning around and selling and marketing to your clients?
Yeah, good question. So the SMB 1001 compliance is quite recent. I mean, it's quite a new standard. Before that, we used to base our recommendations on, and we still do, things like the critical controls from the National Cybersecurity Council. And that was really just so that we could say, look, it's not just us saying this. We are basing these recommendations on some tangible evidence. The SMB 1001 process has been really good. I think it's a great framework in that it's not general. So it's not like you have to make many interpretations of the guidance or the controls. And it scales down quite well. So we've found that, we could take very tangible control recommendations. It's very easy to complete that gap analysis as well because of the specificity of the controls. So yeah, that's been part of our strategy really, or will be part of our strategy, is to provide assurance services to our customers based on SMB 1001. We're not doing that yet, but that is very much where we're going.
And that specificity, just as for anybody that's, hearing SMB 1001 for the first time here, but has seen and heard and been exposed to the other more popular frameworks or control groups that have been out there, like the NIST CSF or even the CIS security controls. Is it a choose one or the other? It's the same amount of effort, or is it there's a meaningful difference for us here, and this is why we chose it?
I think it's maybe not an effort question, but definitely the gap analysis is a bit easier. The interpretation is a bit easier. The specificity is helpful when I see it as being helpful when you're communicating with a non-technical customer. So we're able to say, this is exactly what the gaps are, and this is exactly what needs to be done. I suppose a comparison is, when they say at different levels of the SMB 1001 controls that you need a password manager, they get into very specifics around what that password manager's capabilities should be. So it takes a lot of the interpretation out of the control.
So helps you a little bit on the perception with clients of, I'm not trying to sell you something, I'm pointing to you what the agreed upon best practices are.
Also the messaging.
Okay. So you have been taking advantage of and leveraging Enable's in the Adlumin MDR offering from Enable. Just from a what you were doing to now what you have available and are able to achieve and what your outcomes look like now, what has that improved for you, making that change over the using Naples Adlumin MDR?
Yeah, so there's probably several layers to that. I mean, to start with, we were really looking for an MDR solution to plug, gaps in terms of, one of the critical controls is centralized logging. So a lot of our customers didn't have centralized logging yet. When you go to market and you're looking for a SIEM or something, it can get quite complicated to price and understand exactly what it's going to cost. We can't ask our customer that's not yet our customer how many tens of thousands of logs are they going to be sending us from their devices, because they simply don't know the answer to that. So one thing that was really good about Adlumin, and one of the reasons why we moved ahead with it, was the pricing model being on a per device basis aligned with how we go to market for our customers. So we didn't have to have complicated conversations. It allowed us to plug that gap. But primarily it took, some of the approach before was a lot of effort and a lot of eggs in the prevention basket. We all have to understand that, it's not if, it's when with this stuff, and, they are going to have an incident. So the most tangible difference is, a user clicks a phishing link. This happens nearly every day. Not quite, but quite often. And now, instead of, 3 hours later when some damage has been done, we find out about it. Adlumin's already orchestrated the remediation and informed us. And now we have, a 15-minute ticket, an incident report to deal with, rather than a pretty significant security event.
And that shrinking your mean time to respond and that mean time to resolve an incident, those are wonderful, great metrics to be able to point to from the business side of look at how well we're doing there. But also on like the operations and the security side, that impact of we don't have to spend that time ourselves anymore. That shifting of responsibilities, giving the team more hours. There's all kinds of benefits that can come from that. Do you see just adding that into the broader enable stack you're leveraging in central and code data protection? How does that even expand out even further for you, just taking advantage of all these things?
Yeah, it's a step sort of approach. So again, it's, filling in the holes in the Swiss cheese kind of thing. So I mean, in conjunction with N-central, we can use N-central to enforce the deployment of the Adlumin product. So from a compliance perspective, we can ensure it's deployed as it's supposed to be. The co-solution obviously provides the backup and disaster recovery, and really it's stacking everything together to provide a cohesive solution that fills those security gaps across different controls and different requirements.
Yeah, and not stretching your internal resources, not stretching the team. These aren't new tools coming in that are adding complexity. They're new tools coming in, reducing complexity for the team so that they can get their bandwidth and their attention back so that they can focus on making environments more secure, focus on, providing good service instead of fighting to keep up.
That's right. I know that when I was, reviewing MDR solutions, our service delivery manager was definitely worried about what's the noise going to look like, what's the impact on the help desk going to be, and there is a noise let, but it's a very tangible benefit when we get a ticket that says, look, we've just prevented this huge incident. So it's good from our perspective, but it's also great from a client's perspective. A lot of the services we provide, they're often paying us to not hear anything, to not have us do anything. And then they don't always understand the value of what they're paying for. I'm sure everyone's sort of come across that before. It's like, well, you're not doing anything sort of thing. But this is very much like, well, this is the chain of events and this is what benefit it's had, and they really understand that. So that's been really good.
Yeah, that is it's been a challenge for me as long as I was in the MSP space. It was always that challenge of you want to be, as an MSP, you want to be unobtrusive. You don't want to be invisible. You don't want your clients to never see you, to not have vision on you, to never feel that, but you still don't want to be in their way. And just the SIM capability of Adlumin MDR and the filtering and the noise reduction we're doing for you, even whenever when you're getting the executive summary reports out of it, you have a schedulable, repeatable executive summary that's going to go to them, that's going to proof of service delivery, proof of value received. Look at all of this total number of events that came into us that we evaluated and took a look at and made judgment calls against. And these are the numbers, these are the ones that got elevated a little bit higher. And these are the ones that got a little bit, and here's the 5 tickets, the 6 tickets of an actual MDR SOC engagement remediation action. And that's all just is being taken off the table from your teams to have to be able to keep up with it, to make it happen, to do it. It's where the Adlumin MDR service is your first line security analyst and SOC team. They handle that for you so you don't have to.
And that's arguably one of the most important things about a good solution is the lack of false positives, and it's definitely been impressive in that respect. I think a customer that might have 15 million events per month, we might see sub 5 actionable items, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and there's a lot there you're offloading to the service. There's I don't have to maintain the infrastructure that's going to be the data storage for the SIM. I don't have to have somebody on the team that's ingesting threat intelligence to write new detections for all of that information that's in the SIM. I don't have to have somebody on the team that can write the automations and the SOAR actions so that whenever we do find something in the SIM data that we think is an incident, we can raise it up and automate a response to it. There's, all kinds of operational benefits there. And you've talked about a little bit on, the impacts to the team, but has there been any, I don't say mental health changes, but some, has there been any benefits for the team or anything you've kind of seen of, yes, no, the team is more confident. They're more engaged. They have more, less, I don't know what actually happened, and more, yes, this is the telemetry and the information, and we're reasonably sure that this explains what happened.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it sort of leads into another challenge with taking something like this to the market. And we sort of talked about it at the start with customers not always understanding the technical stack, and nor should they. So in terms of messaging, we were quite careful around when we did decide to use Adlumin, go to our customer base with that, how we packaged it, but also how we messaged that to the customer. And so, some of our account managers found that conversation quite easy, and some of them didn't because it was new for them, or they hadn't yet seen all the benefits. And to answer your question, probably very simply, is the customers that don't have it now, it's very, having seen how it's helped the ones that do have it, the account managers are very comfortable and happy to have that conversation about the offering, I guess, because it's not standardized, so we don't have it across all of our customer base. I think we'll hopefully get there one day, but the conversations are easier to have once you understand tangible benefits.
Right. And also there's something I've seen is also as the organization at large gets more comfortable with Adlumin MDR and the services you're building and selling around it, it your teams feel a lot less, am I overloading what we can do? Because there's always that. Yeah, it's a wonderful problem to have. You're selling more than what you can do, but it's also an absolutely horrible problem to have that you're selling more than what you can actually do. And has that, because there is so much that is being taken over and so much service that is being provided by the Adlumin MDR, have you kind of felt or seen that there's like yeah, we don't have to worry about, are we overburdening our teams?
Yeah, I think that's true. I would say, I would say some people are cognizant of that. So some people are, but I think in general, there's definitely not a concern that when we roll this tool out, we're going to be overburdened. No, that's certainly not a perception anymore inside the organization, which is really good. And I guess the alternatives to running something like this is doing it yourself, and that's the complete opposite discussion, isn't it? You're bringing so much more work in house, and we did look at that as an option. We disregarded it pretty quickly. It also requires a significant amount of expertise and specialization, as you've already alluded to. So yeah, it's relatively low touch for how much benefit it provides.
Yeah, and that is that is a important business question for you, and operations questions as an MSP is, do I do this internally or do I consume this as a service from a third party? And there's tons of very, very good questions you have to ask when you're going through that evaluation of, am I going to do one or the other? But I find a lot of times the conversation just hits an automatic brick wall of, okay, you're going to have to find 8,070 hours of additional payroll just to keep one body per shift available for this. And you're absolutely going to burn those individuals out. So guess what? It's not 8,000, it's 16,000 hours of 1,600 hours of payroll you're going to have to find. And it's one of those, just ask that simple question of, do you have can you handle that kind of a payroll growth? And a lot of times the answer is just no, you can't. You can't pull that out of thin air. And this is a great.
So while you get it off the ground as well as another discussion.
Oh yeah, because you got to do that for 2 years before it's fully fledged, fully staffed, and operating at the speed it should, and you're still not in the black at that point. And this is kind of, similar to that vein of, the practical advice for MSPs that are considering, and something like Adlumin MDR as an outsourced service. Was there anything that you walked into whenever you were first looking at this and evaluating your need to be able to do these kinds of things? Were there any misconceptions you had that now that you've been leveraging Adlumin MDR, you've changed your point of view?
Yeah, so I've touched on a few of these. So one of them was, make sure that you're clear on your messaging and how you're going to package it, and understand the pricing in terms of licensing, time, all that sort of stuff, like any solution. But yeah, when I was reviewing alternative products, I mentioned, some of them you're paying on number of logs, things like that, which can be very complicated or challenging to put together a price. And also then you constantly dealing with scale and reconciliation. So those are things to be aware of. I would say common misconceptions are, I suppose, probably created by the acronym MDR as well, this is not unique to the acronym MDR. It happens across technology in general, but not all MDRs are the same. So not all MDRs are going to include SIEM and everything that Adlumin does. So when you're reviewing them, but definitely make sure that you're comparing the feature sets. Do the due diligence on the time required. It's very low, but it's not, it's not zero. So I that's why we didn't go with the approach of just turning it on for every customer, because we wanted them to understand the value proposition, and we wanted to also make sure that we were, being commercially sensible around it. Those are probably the ones that come to mind. But I mean, I would also not be afraid of doing it, as I've talked about. There's several benefits, and they're really tangible ones, and the ones that the customer understands once it's live. So
Yeah, and it's it's not exactly set it and forget it, but whenever you do implement it through, like you said earlier, deploy it through N-Central. Use some service monitors to monitor the health, to make sure that the agent is there and is constantly running as you need it to. You're relying on the 24/7 MDR team to act as your first line of initial triage, remediation, and first line, isolation of devices and disabling user accounts for you. All of these things that if you're like, we're going to do this. Okay, who's the poor soul on the team that's going to have to roll out of bed at 3 a.m. to answer a pager call or a pager duty or whatever it may be to say, hey, this alert happened, get the sleep out of your eyes, make sense of the world. And, hopefully you can get logged in within 15 minutes and go isolate that user.
yeah, that's right. One of the other things that is worth considering, and I guess a bit of advice, is once you have something like Adlumin deployed, I mean, you're going to have a lot more visibility and information. So one thing that has a commercial benefit is once you've deployed it, you get a bunch of recommendations, which effectively are another layer of gap analysis. So once that's deployed, you might have a list of 6 or 7 recommendations that you weren't aware of before, or you didn't have tangible evidence to back up, but now you do. And so, there is some project work generation that comes off the back of it as well. So that's definitely worth being aware of.
Oh yeah, there's definitely like a project discovery. Treat it as this is part of our contract and we're going to take care of it under this engagement, or is this project work? It's up to you. But yeah, there is absolutely tons of good security stature and configuration information inside of MDR that just it's added value to the platform. It's not hidden behind a additional license or SKU. I like the dark web monitoring that's built into the platform. It comes with the platform. We will monitor for data breaches that contain the domains that are being monitored. And if we see a user's credentials out on the dark web somewhere, we will force that user to reset their password on next login. And it comes with the platform. It's not an additional SKU. Combining that with things, like you said, with the posture management kind of capabilities in it, they're giving you the heads up that, oh yeah, at this client, you have all of these file shares set up with full control and everybody has access to it. Why? Is there, in your larger cybersecurity strategies that you're looking at, thinking of the adjustments you're making in mid-stride here as you're learning more about Adlumin MDR and what it can do for you and where it can help you? Is that changing any of your forward-looking strategies right now?
Yeah. So strategy-wise, we are planning to provide some assurance services around SMB 1001. I mentioned, so that will be sort of a controls advisory as a service solution. So that is a big part of our next sort of 12 to 18 months. And again, I guess tools like Adlumin just ensure that we have as much information as possible to make that gap analysis as easy as possible. And as you mentioned, a lot more emphasis on ensuring that we have deviation controls or configuration drift controls is a big focus for us. So we've already talked about it a little bit, but ensuring that all of our services or best practice configurations are monitored, so that if, because we could look at it on day one and say, yes, everything's fine, but then on day 5, Bo has just shared his whole C drive with everyone, and having mechanisms across the board to identify configuration drift is a big emphasis for us across endpoints 365 and all of the platforms that we possibly can. The rolling out of SMB 1001 is the primary one. Trying to get our customers to understand and align with controls is a big risk mitigation for ourselves as well as them. I would say that's the primary one.
Yeah, that's here in the US, I kind of address that underneath the whole principle of affirmative defense. You want to CYA at all times, and you want to be able to say that we did what should be done. And here is the professionals that are professionals above us, that are the truth tellers, have already said this is what should be done, and we're following it. And that gives you a really good grounds to stand on.
Yeah, and we have had a bit of a hard time with that. I mean, I guess it goes back to the lack of regulatory conformance, because no one's really holding them to account. The punishments or the punitive risk is pretty low. So, I mean, failure to properly prevent a breach, if it goes through the privacy commissioner's office and he determines that, I mean, the maximum fine's only $10,000. So it's relatively, it's not shifting the needle. It really has to come from us. And I see the regulation actually probably coming down on businesses like us when it does get there. It's like we're ultimately going to be the ones held to account over some of these things, because they're handing over the complete control to us. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, as you say.
Yeah. And I agree with you on the regulations. It is the Essential 8 is up for renewal. They're already talking about replacing it. You have in the EU, you have the NIS2 directive. The UK is going right along with what the NIS2 directive was asking for, and they're mirroring it. The US has similar stuff, and we've got more coming down the pipeline. So it is absolutely a get on the train, take advantage of it, or else you're going to be left behind, and you're not going to have good messaging. You're not going to have good marketing. You're not going to have good answers operationally for, these types of regulatory things are going to start coming down. And yes, managed service providers are being mentioned by name in these other places. It'll likely be, within 10 years, it will likely be global.
I see it that way too.
So it's just as a final kind of the landscape out there, since we're just on the regulatory landscape, is there anything particular of emerging threats, ransomware, new AI deepfakes, or anything else that's like you as a company being worried about it as an MSP, versus what is it that's being brought to you that your clients are concerned about and are asking you, are we safe?
Yes. I mean, one trend, I guess, that our clients are coming to us is not so much necessarily about threat actors, but internal use of AI being a concern. So, responsible use, acceptable use policies. A lot of our customers are asking for guidance on that. Are our team leaking our data to these tools that they can just sign up to. And it's a tough one to answer because the answer is probably yes. And and it's not always as simple as just turning it off, is it? So that's definitely a conversation that we're having more and more. Similarly, I think everyone's sort of aware that AI is being used to accelerate, threat actors. They don't have to worry about whether the information is right or wrong. It's a little bit different in terms of using it responsibly. They can just throw as much as they want at it. And it can definitely help them with output. So I think we're seeing an increased volume of attempts, successful or otherwise, as a result of that. Those are the main ones that come to mind.
Yeah, and with that, the acceleration of the threat actors, yes, they have access to tools. They can go off to GitHub and download a LLM that will happily, code for them. It will happily build phishing and scam emails for them. And that asymmetry of warfare is, it's a challenge for MSPs. But even even the tools that you may not think would have a role to play in there are still, our basic tools sometimes still have a role to play. Our DNS filtering solutions or our content filtering solutions are still valid for preventing end users from accessing things we don't want them to access. Enable Adlumin MDR because we're monitoring what runs on the endpoint. We can see these script blocks for PowerShell and what are threat actors doing. They're living off the LAN tactics that were coded for them by an LLM that's probably got so much reuse in it of existing code that solutions like Adlumin MDR are able to immediately recognize and pick it up. So even though that volume is increasing, the ability to detect it is still there. And I don't want to say our old tools, but the established tools we still have a role to play there. We need a AI magic solution to deal with AI problems.
No, I don't think so. I think it goes back to, making sure all the controls are in place because they're there for a reason. But also, it goes back to that. It's not if, but it's going to happen. Like this stuff isn't just like we're ever going to implement something and we now don't have to worry about threat actors. It's just not that situation. So put systems in place that are there for the win. So having incident response plans, we're doing a lot more of that. Acceptable use policies. So I guess another thing that's relevant is a lot. I don't know if New Zealand's a bit behind on this, but we are having a lot more conversations around cyber insurance. I mean, a lot of our customers had it a while ago, and then their premiums tripled, and then a lot of them cancelled it because the insurers had priced it incorrectly. That's coming kind of back around now, and people are actually looking at it and going, should we just pay these premiums? So that's kind of an interesting one. I don't know what's driving that apart from just a little bit more or less tolerance of risk from our customer base, I suppose.
Yeah, more education, more business decision makers paying more attention to what's actually happening around them. Nothing will get their attention faster than something happening to one of their friends who runs another business across the table during dinner. That will get their attention and make them make decisions they otherwise would not have made in the past.
And sometimes, with lack of regulation, I guess what the punitive stuff is sometimes that it's existential, isn't it? So, if they're small enough and they have a significant enough event, then they just cease to exist. So that's, people were seeing that.
Yeah, and that's also a part of a challenge of messaging and talking about these things. Be careful about using the really big numbers that some vendors like to use around these types of things about the amount of ransomware and the average ransomware attack cost. Because if you're talking about a $3 million ransomware payment to a company that barely generates, $1.5 million in a year, that doesn't apply to me. That's not my world, and completely block out the rest of the conversation. So I've got about 20 minutes left on the session here. We are going to give everybody an opportunity here if you're interested in learning more about Adlumin MDR or anything else in the Essential portfolio we've been talking about, just put demo into the questions. That'll let us know you have an interest. We'll reach out to you. Put that in the chat for us. And again, that's just to let us know that you're interested and we should reach out to you. And while anybody's getting those requests in, if anybody's got some questions, we'll start working through the backlog, but go ahead and add any additional ones in. Let's see. Let's get okay. So here's a great thing. And I'm not sure, Jason, if you're taking advantage of this. There is a SKU, there is a version of Adlumin available that's only focused on the M365, the intra ID user identity portion, where all we're doing is we're giving you a connection to Azure intra ID, and any impossible travel or unusual, anything that violates the UEBA rules that are in there, we will isolate, disable a user or force a user password reset or things like that. Were you taking advantage of that particular SKU?
We're not. I'm aware of it. So we're pretty much standardized on the MDR standard license, which includes that functionality. But we're not selling just the 365 protection by itself. I am aware of it, and I would recommend it because it's especially for a customer that might have their entire stack in 365. I mean, they're still going to have computers, and so we still want to capture their logs, which was our mindset on it. But I think it's a great offering and good price.
Right, yeah. For the lean businesses or micro businesses that do take that, no, we're not going to do Active Directory. We're not going to have on premise. It's going to be SaaS cloud, everything. It is a valid route to take, especially for your clients, because it is a smaller SKU. It is a smaller cost associated with it. It also means, hey, you got more opportunities to get it into places where you can prove value, where you can maybe get them to take the full package later.
And if you compare, I mean, you can get one thing I did look at is, you can get a similar level of functionality by purchasing the likes of, Microsoft 365 E5 and configuring everything that you get under that SKU. But if you do a price comparison, you're going to be paying significantly more for the privilege. And another challenge for us as an MSP is, like with many Microsoft products, is not having that true multi-tenancy is challenging. So then we started increasing our operational overhead. So that was another factor in going with that.
Yeah. And you're going with you said you're going for the full MDR implementation that we have available. For the fact that you are taking that advantage, you're taking that approach. I imagine there was the conversation internally of, is it the risk profile? Do we want to raise the risk profile of the client and ourselves by trying to go with, the lesser option, versus are we making that business decision of, no, we're not going to allow our clients to represent that risk to us?
Yeah, was a factor. Again, also, if we're looking at adhering to the critical controls or an SMB standard as well, we simply wouldn't be plugging some of the gaps that we want to plug there around centralized locking. So that was the main tipping point for us. And again, messaging wise, you want to be very clear around what you're looking to protect and not introducing too many gaps to that logic, because it can muddy up the messaging a little bit.
Right. And since we were, there is the identity portion of Adlumin MDR. that gives you that ability to have, okay, impossible travel, user and entity behavior analytic violations, foreign VPN login access. You're in New Zealand. I know it's an issue there because of the way, your stuff will route from New Zealand back and forth, back to you, and you'll never, sometimes it looks like you're 500 miles away. So for that, and this is just a broad issue of how's that affected the SOAR actions is that we've been able to reasonably set an expectation with your clients that we're doing this out of an abundance of caution and that this is what is necessary to keep you secure in today's world? Or has there been that pushback and, the end user inconvenience and we don't like it conversations?
Yeah, good question. I can actually provide some data on that. So I think we were a little bit worried about that. And then we looked at the data maybe a couple of months ago, and I think we'd had maybe 112 related SOAR executions in the 11 months of data. And we'd only had one kind of disgruntled user out of those 112 events. So we were not seeing pushback. I think, the other thing that's quite good about it is, obviously the analysis they're doing on their end, whether it's an AI layer or not, that they're pretty good at picking out whether a user does travel constantly, and it's picking up an atypical event quite well. So I might flag something that's a bit 50-50 the first few times, and then we're seeing it kind of goes quiet. So that's all we can really ask for it. It is establishing typicality quite well over time.
This is a good question. Yes, it is more than just Intra ID. Google Workspaces is also supported. Are you using that for any clients for the identity?
We have one or two, so not many, but yes, we do have it. And functionality, like it's nearly parity. So, I mean, it's not capturing as much information as it does from the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, simply because it's a bit all broad in terms of Defender and for endpoint in 365. But in terms of the SOAR actions, it's exactly the same.
Okay, yeah. And that protection there for either Google Workspace or Intra ID, of course, spreads out to any federated services that you have set up with that identity provider. So as long as you've got Intra ID or you have Google Workspace, any other services, any other platforms that use that as the authentication, authorization, login mechanism is that Intra ID or Google workgroup identity, then the actions we're taking propagates out to them as well.
It's quite powerful. That's obviously, one of the benefits of federation in general, providing a standardized set of conditional access policies or policies in general, but being able to provide that SOAR benefit to the entire ecosystem for sure.
Yeah, dual-edged sword. Some people don't like the idea of all of my logins being controlled by one thing, but then at the same time, it's you're not going to keep up with it at scale for entire businesses if you don't.
That's right. We have to turn off one rather than 15, 3 of which we don't know about.
All right. It looks like we've hit all of the questions that have come in. One more opportunity for anybody to get those last minute questions in, since we're down to the last 10 minutes. But while we're waiting for any of those last questions to come in, another reminder, if you're interested in anything, throw demo into the questions panel. That way we got it recorded. If you throw it into the chat, we're going to lose that after the session closes. Get those in. But it's been a pleasure. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and have this conversation. Also, thank you everybody that's decided to join us as MSPs, as IT professionals. We absolutely understand it's hard to set aside an hour of your day to listen to anything, even if it's something you really want to see. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Jason, any closing remarks for anybody? Words of wisdom.
I think I've expanded everything I've got. But thanks for having me, Lewis, and thanks for the chat.
All right. And looks like we got our final one in. Did you integrate Adlumin MDR into your PSA in any way?
Yes, very recently we have so we use Halo PSA. So the ticketing integration has been implemented. So we can now manage all of the ticket communications in our PSA, which has been very good. We don't have to manage those incidents or comms in two different portals. So yes, we have.
Right. And for anybody curious, the Halo integration is the new version of the Halo integration is weeks old at this point, and we also have an auto task integration for PSA, and we will be bringing more in the future if yours was not mentioned there. But it is Jira on the back end, so hey, Jira, if you can work with that with your PSA, it might be a little of a manual task, but it can still be done. Alrighty. I think that's it for all the questions. Again, thank you very much for Jason and our audience for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. Back to Hamish, if you would like to close us out.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lewis and Jason. It's been a great session. We'll get this recording prepared and sent out to everyone. But in the meantime, just feel free to email me. I can pass on your questions to Lewis if you had any that we missed. But yeah, thank you everyone again for joining, and look forward to connecting again soon.